Now we're going to see the disease of the posterior pituitary. This would be syndrome of inappropriate secretion of antidiuretic hormone and diabetes insipidus. These two diseases has to do with the antidiuretic hormone. Remember that the posterior pituitary has the antidiuretic hormone and the oxytocin. There is no truly like a disease of decreasing oxytocin that would only lead to decreased contraction in the parturition time. We will talk about the physiology of the posterior pituitary in other videos. Here we are going to focus in the diseases of the posterior pituitary alone. That would be just syndrome of inappropriate diuretic hormone and diabetes insipidus. So first, syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone is a increased secretion in antidiuretic hormone. So we will have increased vascular volume at the beginning, but because there is an increase in vascular volume, the cardiac chambers are going to be dilated, and so the atrial natriuretic peptide is going to be released from the right atrium. And the atrial natriuretic peptide does two things. One, decreases the secretion of renin, and so the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system is inhibited, and promotes natriuresis because it promotes the contraction of the efferent arteriole and vasodilation of the afferent arteriole, and so that promotes the filtration to the Bowman space. Next, the patient will present with symptoms of hyponatremia because of the natriuresis, the decrease in renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system. So, will be signs of hyponatremia. Remember that the change in sodium produces change in the CNAS, like confusion, and if it is severe, could lead to seizures. But the patient would be euvolemic because there would not be a total increase in the volume, because yes, the antidiuretic hormone is promoting the reabsorption, but also the renin-angiotensin-aldosterone system is inhibited, and so is not reabsorbing the water. So this patient would be hyponatremic but euvolemic. So there will not be signs of overloaded, like there will not be edema. The treatment depends on the symptoms that usually are correlated with the degree of hyponatremia, but is not directly the hyponatremia, is the symptoms that dictate how we're going to treat. So first, the diagnosis, we would see that the urine osmolarity is increased, let's say more than 20 milliequivalents per liter of sodium concentration in the urine. The plasma level would be usually less than 270 milliosmolar. The urine osmolarity would be certainly greater than 100 milliosmolar, but usually greater than 300. And the blood sample would show decreased blood urea nitrogen, decreased creatinine, decreased uric acid, and decreased albumin. So the treatment is, if the patient has a mild hyponatremia, if there is no symptoms, we just treat it with restriction of fluid, let's say 800 to 1000 milliliters of water per day restriction. If the patient has moderate disease, we can give antagonist of the receptor of antidiuretic hormone. That would be conivaptan and tolvaptan. If it is severe, we will treat it with hypertonic solution, and remember that this is the only indication in which the physician gives the hypertonic solution. Usually, if it is severe, the correction could be like between 200 and 300 milliliters in 3 to 4 hours. The severe hyponatremia is usually around less than 120 milliequivalents per liter, and is when the patient is having the symptoms. So in symptomatic disease, we would treat it with hypertonic solution. If it is chronic disease, we will treat it as saline infusion with salt tables. or tolvibaptan, conivaptan, or demeclocycline. Demeclocycline is a tetracycline that is used as treatment of syndrome of antidiuretic hormone, inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion, because it promotes the diuresis, because it inhibits the receptor, or it's like a antagonist of the antidiuretic hormone. So you could think as we are inducing a diabetes insipidus. Remember that the demeclocycline is going to be a cause of diabetes, nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. So this is the treatment for chronic demeclocycline, for moderate to severe conivaptan, tolvaptan, and for mild only water restriction with no salt restriction. Remember that when you correct the sodium, you should correct it no more than 10 milliequivalents per liter in 24 hours, or you could think like between 12 and 24. Think as in 24 hours, how much can I replace? Just 12 milliequivalents per liter. So if the patient has 120, you should at most keep it as 132, no more than that. Next, now we're going to talk about diabetes insipidus. Diabetes insipidus is a problem or in the secretion of antidiuretic hormone, or in the response of the kidney to the antidiuretic hormone. So if it is nephrogenic, is the kidney the problem and is not responding. If it is central, is the decreasing antidiuretic hormone secretion by the pituitary or the hypothalamus. Here the causes could be trauma, surgery, sarcoidosis, infiltrative diseases like sarcoidosis or hemochromatosis, etc. For the hypothalamus would be radiation therapy, adenoma, craniopharyngioma, could be Sjögren syndrome, sickle cell disease, pyelonephritis, multiple myeloma, histiocytosis like Hans-Schüller-Christian syndrome, leukocytosis, TB, syphilis, surgery, etc. Most of the diseases in the pituitary or in the sorry, here I forgot to say that here the nephrogenic. Nephrogenic goes with sickle cell disease, pyelonephritis, multiple myeloma, and Sjögren syndrome. Most of the diseases that produce central diabetes insipidus also can produce the syndrome of inappropriate secretion of antidiuretic hormone, one or the other, because sarcoidosis, hemochromatosis, TB, lung abscesses, many other things can produce syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone. Among the only causes of syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion are lung abscesses, malignancy like timomas, pancreatic tumors, squamous cell carcinoma, that's the most common cause. Oh, and certainly I forgot to say the drugs that can produce the syndrome of antidiuretic hormone secretion, of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion, that are chlorfibrates, sulfonylureas, tricyclic antidepressives, SSRIs, MAO inhibitors, carbamazepine, vincristine, vinblastine, cyclophosphamide, chlorpropamide. So that's it. The important issue here is that now that we are seeing diabetes insipidus, the treatment could be with some of the drugs that produces syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone. So the same as that the treatment of syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone is demeclocycline, and demeclocycline produces diabetes insipidus. Here when we have diabetes insipidus, one of the treatments could be some of these drugs. That is, when the problem is the central diabetes insipidus, we could give hormonal replacement, that would be vasopressin or desmopressin, or we can give hormonal stimulation, that would go with chlorpropamide, carbamazepine, or chlorfibrates, that are some of the drugs that produce a syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone. Vasopressin produces a hypertension and bradycardia, so usually we do not give vasopressin. We prefer to give desmopressin. Desmopressin presentation could be oral, subcutaneous, or intranasal. We prefer the intranasal because it's more comfortable for patients. The treatment for nephrogenic diabetes insipidus is first to try of the causes. I forgot to mention some causes of diabetes insipidus, drug causes, that are lithium, demeclocycline, and colchicine. So first is, if the patient is taking one of these, we suspend them and we treat with another thing. Also, hypercalcemia and hypokalemia can produce diabetes insipidus, nephrogenic diabetes insipidus, so also we should check these electrolytes and, if it is the case, correct them. If there is no problem after this intervention, the patient continues with diabetes insipidus. If it is nephrogenic, we're going to see how to know if it is nephrogenic or central, but first we're seeing the treatment. So here the treatment would be thiazides, amiloride, or NSAIDs. Let me tell you the thiazides. The thiazides work in the distal convoluted tubule to increase the diuresis. So, because there is increase in the diuresis, there is increase in the renin, angiotensin, aldosterone system. And so, the aldosterone goes a little bit further in the distal convoluted tubule and collecting duct, and promotes the reabsorption of sodium and water. And so it's reabsorbing water that is more efficient. And so the patient should be reabsorbing water, and like that we should stop the diabetes insipidus. So these are the treatment. In order to know if the patient has diabetes insipidus, we would look first at the plasma osmolarity, that is usually between 280 and 300 millismol per liter, as opposed to 289 or something like that. And in a patient that has primary polydipsia, the plasma osmolarity will be the same, it will be normal. So like that we can begin to see that if the patient has diabetes insipidus or not. Next, the test is water deprivation. If the patient increases the urine osmolarity, then there will be no diabetes insipidus. If it cannot increase the urine osmolarity, then it is diabetes insipidus. Next, we give vasopressin, that's like antidiuretic hormone. If there is an increase now in urine osmolarity, the problem was that there was no ADH, so there was a central diabetes insipidus. If the patient has no increase in urine osmolarity after vasopressin, then the problem is the kidney. The kidney is not responding to the antidiuretic hormone, and so it is nephrogenic diabetes insipidus. So nephrogenic diabetes insipidus is treated with first checking calcium, potassium, next checking if the patient is taking lithium, demeclocycline, or colchicine, and next thiazides, amiloride, or NSAIDs. Diabetes insipidus is kind of the opposite to syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone. Remember some causes that produce antidiuretic hormone. Syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone secretion could produce or are the same causes that can produce central diabetes insipidus. But remember that drugs are kind of the opposite. Drugs that produce diabetes insipidus are treatment for syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone, and vice versa. Drugs that produce syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone are treatment for diabetes insipidus. Like drugs that produce syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone, remember, sulfonylureas, carbamazepine, chlorfibrates, tricyclic antidepressants, SSRI, carbamazepine, MAO inhibitors, vinblastine, vincristine, cyclophosphamide, and of those, chlorfibrates, carbamazepine, and chlorpropamide can be used for central diabetes insipidus. And demeclocycline is the treatment for chronic syndrome of inappropriate antidiuretic hormone, and is one of the causes of diabetes insipidus, nephrogenic diabetes insipidus.